What is up, everyone? Welcome, gamers, to our quick little first impressions of D-BT09. So, of course, the set has already released here in Japan, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet because the card list came out while I was in LA, so I didn't really have time to sit down and look at everything. But today, we're going to go through my first impressions of Set 9. And don't worry, I know you guys are waiting for the Set 8 meta-analysis and like all decks and stuff. Those will come out. I was just really busy these last couple months, and I've not really been able to play enough of this meta of anything, which really feels kind of sad. I was kind of hoping to get a bit more playtime out of it, but luckily this meta will be playing a lot. So let's get into it and take a look at the 5 nations and how they got supported, as well as, of course, the Dragontree stuff as well. So we have some pretty good support all across the board, and the set overall feels like it will alter the meta quite a bit because there's a lot of really good generics in this set, and the new ride lines feel pretty good too, and some older decks got some actual like life-changing support. So starting with Dragon Empire, I think Buff Sagara has gotten the best support card in like since Buff Sagara was invented. Like an arm searcher at long last feels like it really changes everything. The deck now draws way more than it used to. Some people are even saying to cut draws from Buff Sagara because of how much it draws and just decks itself out. So arm like Buff Sagara, really good support. And then we have Verena support / Nirvana support, like for both playstyles, which doesn't feel good now, but I feel like this card will have potential in the future, so I would pick it up. And then of course we got generics for every clan, for every nation rather, through the Dragontree cards. And the Dragontree card for Dragon Empire is like okay. It's more for like Eugene and Buff Sagara who actually have main phase retire, in my opinion. I guess Jiva technically does as well with Bowder, but it's okay. It's decent. So the triples and stuff for Dragon Empire are like some really high highs and some like mids, I would say. But then you look at the double rares, we got like really good Eugene support, mid Nirvana support, an okay generic. It's like pretty good, like Soul Blast 1 for removal if you're persona riding is really nice, plus also gets a bunch of power and like binds your opponent and stuff. Like just overall pretty strong and kind of mid Buff Sagara support. And then, of course, we have new counter heals for all nations that everyone got, which are pretty nice. Basically, if you're in a like Jet meta, it's pretty good because you'll be able to just have 20k shield heals if you expect to play against Jet all the time. But if you have like a lot of Evas, obviously it's not as good. But then all the other rares are like kind of like mid for Dragon Empire. You have like an on-hit, the like mixed playstyle Nirvana card, and then like the no damage denial, interesting grade 2 as well. And then the commons are just kind of like iffy-ish, I would say, for Dragon Empire. So overall for me, Dragon Empire feels like a 3 out of 5 because we have like an insane high in the Buff Sagara support, and then the rest is just kind of like So the Buff Sagara card definitely carries, in my opinion, just because of how good it is. Moving on to Dark States though, we have 2 new ride lines in Unica as well as the new Bruce, and they're both kind of okay for now. Like they're both decent and playable, but Unica is a 3-attack deck with like pretty consistent resource generation and, you know, the drives and the crit and like the retire. So that's good, but it's a 3-attack deck, which like kind of is missing that extra little oomph to it. And then Bruce is basically like it attacks less times, but it's more tanky and bigger power now than before, which I feel like will be good over time. Like might not be as insane as old Bruce was right now, but will get better with time. And it's a lot more like less open to generics. You can only play Diablo's stuff in it basically, so you lose out on some of the good generic Dark States tools. So I feel like both ride lines are pretty decent, and the Dragontree card is also okay. Like Soul Blast 2 to call something from Soul is pretty decent for like any deck that has like spare Soul. Like Barrow sometimes can have that kind of like extra extension, so definitely gonna be pretty cool, and like feels like it'll be easily slotted into other Dark States decks in the future. As for the double rares, Dark States actually get some of the best ones. In particular, we have a really good Unica support that kind of just like sets up Unica for you for free, and it gets extra power and shield. And Clean Sweep Dragon, this card is insane, and it's like a 2,000 yen, at least day one it was like a 2,000 yen double rare, right? This thing is like, if you persona road this turn, you CB1, and you and your opponent can choose, you choose 3 rears in total, and then the chosen rears go to the, you know, the respective player's souls, and then for each one put to soul, he gets plus 5k. So this in an Eva meta is really huge because you can chuck your opponent's Obs Grenades into soul. So as an Eva player, I'm a little bit worried, and of course every deck but Jet will play this because it's Persona Ride locked. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It does cost a CB, of course, but as a removal card, it's really nice. So it's like you have a really good generic, good Unica support, okay Barrow support, and like a really good Bruce support, the double rare slots for Dark States rather are really good. Rare slots too is like you got pretty cool generic with this one. And then the rest are kind of like okay. The Jewel definitely not so much winning from this set, but more so winning from the promo that releases very soon. And then for the commons, quite a lot of good stuff actually. Really good Unica stuff overall. And of course, like a little bit of boost support. So I would give Dark States a 4 out of 5. I think it's actually like a lot of goods and then some really amazing generics, like especially with Clean Sweep. Like Dark States gets a 4 out of 5 for me. It is very, very nice. And yeah, of course, you can, yeah, Eva can Soul Blast out as Blaster said in chat, but that's still, you lose out on the shield, which is part of the reason why, you know, it's pretty big reason why it was good, is that you have a lot of shield cycle all the time. So moving forward, we have Brandgate, which in my opinion is the best nation of this set. It feels like Brandgate got the best cards it's gotten in a very long time, like since set 4 maybe even, because Vanguard is a really good new ride line. It's a Blau, basically, in the D era, in the first robot ride line, which is really cool. Freiheit is, I think, the most expensive triple rare in the entire set, because it's a generic Persona Ride Searcher for every Brandgate deck, and it makes Welstra a turn 3 deck, and also potentially just a very good deck overall. A lot of the top competitive players in Japan are testing Welstra right now for the competitive season. This might be a deck to look out for, so definitely pick it up fast because the price is skyrocketing in Japan very quickly. And I would say the Brandgate also has the best Dragontree card, because every time you set an order from hand, you can CB1, look at top 5, and call a card to the same column as him. So Ava gets something out of this, Orphis gets something out of this, Gravidia gets something out of this. It's like really good, and the list goes on, right? So I would say all 3 triples for Brandgate are really, really good. We go with the double rares. We have a good Vanguard support, a really good generic that lets you recycle orders back to hand for the cost of Soul Blast 1, discard 1 if you Persona Road. Really good hero support and like decent Gravidia support that like lets you gamble basically, which is like, again, all double rares are good. We look at the rares and we have 2 amazing set orders. Of course, one of them is just part of Vanguard's deck, but then this amazing new order for the, you know, CEO deck is also just insane. The new base, like not the base, but the new product is just insanely good. And of course, you know, the heal and yeah, just 13k, but on your opponent's turn 2 generic is also decent. So really good rares, just good rares as well. And then the commons are also just like, you know, basically just stuff for Vanguarda. So it's like, you know, you can't go wrong with that. So Brandgate to me in this set is a 5 out of 5. It is an insanely good wave of support. Like decks that were horrible like Welstra suddenly are potentially tier 1, and then you introduce a really good new ride line and some insane generic tools. So Brandgate is really nice. And then we have Ketter. Ketter probably has its worst support wave since I don't even know when, dude. Like set 5? Like set 5 with PBO Integria. Like, I don't know. Ketter feels a bit cope this set. We have like, they freed Darkstrain and then gave us a like alternate to Darkstrain. She's really cute, drawn by Fuzichoko. I love her, but not exactly too exciting. Youthberg support this set. You know, it makes sense that it's toned down because Youthberg's been really good, so it doesn't really need more good support for a while. But like Dorbrig, I guess it will be played. You know, it's a strong attacker, but it's kind of mid. And the generic is like decent. It's basically like a Melty, but for Ketter, so it's fine. So the triples are all like on the mid line, I would say. And then the doubles are where I get a little bit disappointed, because it's like an on-hit searcher for Bastion, which you don't really need, a control removal card that's Persona Ride locked, you know, and then we have a countercharger. This is really good double rare, and of course also like the 15k restanding booster for youth, which is also like fine, I guess. The rares are also like leave quite a lot to be desired. Like you have this order, which is like cool for control, Hexorb support, which is like decent, but feels like it again could have been a bit more, and then some like this interesting like intercept that moves your rears to Guardian Circle card. It's kind of mid overall. And then of course the commons as well. Like they spent a bunch of like slots on this like Divine Sister package, which like it's not even a ride line, it's just like a package. And then some of the rears are pretty okay. You have like the bot decker for Youthberg, and then this thing is also kind of cool. Like when you place it from hand to rear, Soul Blast 1, and then you choose a grade 2 or greater from your drop and put it to top of deck. So it's like a cool premium tool, basically. So you can stack your heal guards and stuff. But aside from that, it's like the other cards are just kind of like okay. So I feel like Ketter this time around, honestly, it's like 3 to 5 or 2 to 5. I honestly am like leaning more towards a 2, but it just feels like everything is like a 3 to 5 across the board. So I'll be nice and give it a 3 to 5. I think Ketter definitely is a bit mid this time around, but it's had a lot of good waves of support, so it's fine to be mid for a little bit. And then of course finally we have Stoicheia, which honestly is pretty good. Granfia feels like the best of the new ride lines, which is really nice. Magnolia got some decent support as well, like basically a mini inlet. And then of course the generic is like kind of more like Zorga themed, I guess, because it recycles orders. But of course Stoicheia decks in general like to run orders, so it's pretty good all the way through. And then of course in the double rares we have support for the 3 decks, like Flagberg support is pretty good. You have power, and you know, you have ways to recycle your inlets. And then of course you have good Magnolia support and good Granfia support. And then the rares also are like really nice. The mushrooms are really good. You generate soul while making plant tokens and give rears +5. Like lots of plant token generation, which of course is good because it's just plus. Plant tokens are just plus, and especially in a deck that uses plant tokens, it's like you're not just supporting Granfia, you're also supporting Rorowa, which is very good. So like the rares for Stoicheia all feel very nice. I think I'm very impressed with that side of things. And the commons are also pretty good. Like overall, strong rear guards that feel pretty decent. So I think Stoicheia gets like a 4 to 5 for me, because you introduce a really good new ride line and you give some good support to old ride lines. So overall, it's pretty good. And then finally, the Dragontree. So the Dragontree itself in a vacuum, in my opinion, is not that great. It requires a lot, like 3 turns to set up, in which you're doing nothing, so you can only guard and attack with Vanguard, and you have a telegraphed overtrigger on turn 6, which means that you cannot rely on defensive OT at all, and you let your opponent just prepare for it. So it's like, yeah, it's okay. The fact that the Dragontree Grifogira doesn't restand the rears until you OT is kind of tragic. And I don't know, it's like if you don't win on the OT turn, you still get to restand rears and it doesn't cost CB, so that's kind of cool, but it leaves something to be desired. But I'm sure the Dragontree will get more support in the future, so we'll see how it goes. But just the baseline being that it's a deck that like goes live on turn 3 and OTs you on turn 6 is already like a certain OT is cool, but part of the strength of the OT is that you never know when it's going to pop. And if you have a deck where both players know when it's going to pop, it's like, yeah, like you put your opponent in a time bomb, but at the same time, they have a lot of time to prepare for it. So we'll see what the Masquez stuff does as well. That'll be an interesting addition. But overall, Dragontree itself, I'm interested in it. I want to build it with Esperal idea. I think that's a pretty fun deck where you can attack like 8 times because of the, you know, OT and how it works. But overall, Dragontree is like okay. And then of course, you know, just the Dragontree himself plus the ride line, you know, the grade 0. It's interesting. I would say it's interesting. I think it's a fun deck to build. I don't think it should be expensive. It's a little bit, day one it was like 2,000 yen a piece for the Grifogira, but it's been going down because in my opinion the deck itself is not very good. It's just like cool boss unit, I suppose. So the only interesting thing is that the like mini force markers, the Dragontree markers, are actually very expensive because their pull rate is very low. Some people were saying like 5 per case or something. So they've been selling for quite a bit. So if you pull them, feel lucky for sure. So I think overall in set 9, the winner is 100% Brancade. Brancade is the winner of set 9 by far and away. And I think it's just like not comparable. After that, I would give it to Stoicheia because they introduced a really good new ride line that's actually pretty budget as well. So definitely a very cool entry line into Stoicheia. And then after that, you basically have the 3 out of 5s where I feel like Dragon Empire might be winning in the 3 out of 5s, or Dark States. Like the two of them feel both very good. Dark States maybe a little bit more. And then of course Ketter just feels like it got the most mid-wave of support in its recent history. So those are my first impressions of set 9 Dragontree Invasion. It's a very good set, a lot of really good generic cards, and of course it's going to be a very exciting meta as well, because this will actually be the Springfest meta for English, and for us here in Japan this is the beginning of our WGP meta for 2023. So it's going to be exciting. I'm actually super hyped to get more playtesting done. I'm actually playing in a VGCS, which probably At the time of uploading this video, I'll have played in, but gonna be seeing what the meta is gonna look like and all the new decks and stuff, and just excited to see like how things will pace out, because it's a new meta, new format, new decks. It's a very exciting time, and of course set 10 is also coming up with a lot of interesting additions as well. So with that being said though, that's gonna be it for today's video. Let me know your first impressions of set 9 as well in the comments, and of course if you like the video, please do give it a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and if you'd like to support me directly and help me pay off my moving fees, consider becoming a YouTube channel member as well. But with that, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.